Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the July 19th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Section 40 of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 allows for the continuation of remote meetings. As such, this meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast on cable channel 15 and streamed online by FCTV. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. I'd like to thank our staff for their continued support to this commission and their diligence assisting applicants. And we have our select board liaison, Bob Muscali, in attendance. Welcome, Bob. Thank you. Tonight we are short one commissioner. However, we have a quorum, so we're moving forward. I'd like to remind you guys that for commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time. Please refrain from speaking over each other. Also, all votes will be done by roll calls. So when I call your name, please state your name and your vote, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project may proceed as proposed. However, a positive determination means that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw do in fact apply. Therefore, the project would require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you really want to hear a negative determination. All right, first up tonight is vote minutes, July 3rd, 2023. We don't have the correct quorum on that, so that will be moved to a later meeting. Therefore, that brings us to requests for determination of applicability. First up is TA Falmouth LLC, care of the Wilder Companies, 137 T-Ticket Highway, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install drainage improvements in an existing failed system. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
So moved, Harlow Hawks.
Second, Gladfelter.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Harlow Hawks, aye.
Steve.
Aye.
It is unanimous. With this quorum, we have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Stephen and Colleen McCormick, 43 Salt Pond Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove an existing deck and to construct a stoop and second-story addition. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project is solely located in an AE flood zone.
Harlow Hawks, so moved.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Harlow Hawks, aye.
Steve.
Aye.
It is unanimous. With this quorum, we have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up is a continued request for determination of applicability. John and Jean Devine, 150 Mill Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct the garage and install 2 dormers. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project is solely located in an AE flood zone.
Harlow Hawks, so moved.
second, Gladfelter,
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Harlow Hawks, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
Red li- Thank you. It is unanimous with this quorum. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up are requests for hearing under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. And as a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Joseph and Kristen Palumba, 19 Santuit Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise, RAZE, an existing single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling with attached garage, patio, and deck, upgrade the existing sewage disposal system, and install restoration plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Raul Lizardi of Cape and Islands to present his project. Welcome, Raul.
Good evening.
Oh, you're up, sir.
Yes, good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant and homeowners of 19 Santuit Road for their project. If I could share my screen.
Yes, sir.
So as noted, the project is at 19 Santuit Road in North Falmouth, specifically in the locus. This is the old Silver Beach area or neighborhood, just before the bridge going over to the point. The project presented as a notice of intent is for a complete tear down and rebuild of the existing dwelling and replacing of the existing driveways and also replacing of the existing septic system. The resources on or within 100 feet of the property are some fragmented coastal banks. There is no other wetland resource within 100 feet, but there is a portion, if I can highlight with my cursor here, this line that I'm highlighting towards that side, that's the 200-foot riverfront to the stream that goes underneath the bridge. So the project in itself, other than the proposed restoration planting, is not within the riverfront. This portion right here is one existing fragmented coastal bank, and then there's another fragmented coastal bank at this location. There's no 100-foot, there's no other wetland resource within 100 foot of these 2 fragmented coastal banks. So these 2 coastal banks only have a buffer zone B, which ends up being way out here. So the entire project and property is within that buffer zone B and within the coastal bank. A couple of pictures to just depict what these coastal banks really look like. So this is our project, and this is the neighbor's property. This is the slope that kind of renders the land between this yard and this property as a coastal bank. Similarly, the front yard has a similar slope, but again, there is no other wetland resource within 100 feet of them. So the proposed project is to completely raise the existing house. It is in the flood zone, and we're going to rebuild a new structure in conformance to building code and in conformance to flood zone requirements. The existing septic system is in the front yard, which is currently at elevations of 10 and 11s, what we're proposing is for the new house, since it's going to be higher in elevation to meet flood zone, to build a septic on the back of the property at higher elevations of 15s and 16s. That adds additional separation to groundwater, which is beneficial for the quality of groundwater. Something else that we're proposing as an improvement, in addition to building to flood zone requirements, is drainage. Currently, there is no dry wells for the roof runoff, so we are proposing dry wells for this roof runoff. And we're also proposing drainage for the proposed driveway. In addition to drainage, flood zone construction, and the septic in the back further from the resources, we're also proposing additional mitigation or restoration plantings all along the western side of the property. It includes part of the fragmented coastal bank, and it avoids having to clear some of the trees. We're preserving all those trees that are in this area. So the mitigation or restoration planting is just going to be nestled in between those areas. So that's essentially the project that we are proposing. We believe it meets regulation and the standards or requirements of the bylaws. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Raul. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, staff didn't have too many comments on this one. Good project, Raul, except, you know, when you're doing that improvement area, let's make sure we put something in there that'll survive, and kind of shady over there, so. Melissa picked up on that. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Bergeron?
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. Betsy?
I have no comments. Thanks, Jamie.
All right. Good project, Raul. Well thought out. Thank you. Kevin?
No comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Maury?
Nice project. I'm glad you got the driveway drainage put in there. And how are you going to protect those trees? Are you going to put like a construction fence around them?
So that is something that we can accept as a condition.
Okay.
Like trees to be protected with fencing,
Something.
and we can do that.
Okay.
This
thank
one,
you.
unlike a project we had a couple of weeks ago, these trees are more than 10 feet away from the new foundation.
Good. Thank you. Appreciate it. All set.
All right. Thank you. Steve?
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
There's not appear to be anything in the public chat regarding this project, and I do not see any hands raised.
All right.
People in here tonight.
Well, I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
Mohawk, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right. Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. This is to close the hearing. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed the hearing. Thank you, Raul.
Thank you.
Raul, are you done, or are you up for the next one, or is that Doug?
That's me.
That's you? Okay.
Stick around for more fun and games. All right. Bear with me. Next up, Leah DeCouteau, trustee, Shanklin Family Real Estate Trust, 663 Minot Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to conduct beach nourishment. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Raul is still with us from Cape and Islands to present his second project of the evening.
Excellent. Mr. Lizardi, you're up, sir.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering to represent the applicant and homeowners of this property for their project. If I could share my screen.
Yes, sir.
So as stated, the project is at 663 Minot Road. It's at the nice 90-degree bend on the road when it goes up Central Ave. So everybody's familiar with this project and this location. It's been presented before this commission several times for different improvements. So this is the location at the bend going up Central Ave in East Falmouth. These are some of the photographs of the site. This is the existing revetment on the water side of the house. This is the existing house. This is the beach area that we're proposing to propose some beach nourishment. Install this area right here. So just something that I would like to clarify. This is not a project that the homeowners are looking to do now. The site doesn't need the beach nourishment today. But what has happened is that beach nourishment is needed. Every so often we have a storm that kind of washes away the sand from behind this revetment. So what they've been doing is having an order of condition in hand so that if it does happen that erosion happens after a storm, they have a valid order of conditions and they can act on it and come to the site and do some of the nourishment that is needed. Similar project was proposed and approved under an order of conditions 4 years ago, actually in 2019, for the same purpose, is for beach nourishment. And all of the work is proposed above mean high water. So there's some beach nourishment that takes place at this location, but the majority is to be taking place behind the house. So what happens is when the floodwaters come in and they find their way out, in this direction and they scour all of this backyard and all the sands. So what we're proposing to do is just to have this order of condition in place so that if a storm happens, any of these following winters or whatever storm happens, they do have this permit so that they can come back and provide some sand to restore the grades. The access to this beach nourishment is the same access that has been approved 4 years ago, which is through this path to access the beach, bring all the sand that's needed if needed, and restore the dunes back to its current conditions after all the construction is done. One item that we failed to notice is that we compare this plan that we submitted for this application with the last application from 4 years ago. And staff found that a prior filing from, I believe, 2013, this corner right here was proposed to be restored with beach grass. That beach grass is somewhat still there, but not completely. So that was under a prior order conditions. Staff did notice it. So we're willing to accept a condition that that area that was approved for beach nourishment gets restored with the dune grass that was approved. A close-up picture of that particular area. This is the few beach grass strands that are left behind in that corner. It washes away with the storms, and when it's being renourished with new sand, the beach grass has not come back. So what we're, I guess, proposing that the condition be is that when the beach nourishment happens, the area gets restored with planting of columns of beach grass, American beach grass. Another picture of the area. This is how it looks. This is after the beach nourishment that happened this year under the order condition that's expired. So this area has been graded back, and this is the main area that gets kind of washed out. What was different this year compared to past erosion projects or erosion conditions is that this year what happened is that all the sand was piled up against the house. So what they did, they raked the sand back and leveled it out on the backyard. So the whole purpose is just to have this permit in hand for those cases when a storm washes away the sand in the backyard. In 2013, there was an order condition to reconstruct the whole revetment, because what happened at that time, there was no beach nourishment done, and the stones of the revetment kind of started falling away. Now the homeowners are keeping the revetment in place, but the beach in front of it, it's necessary to avoid undermining the stones. And after all the work is done, if needed, all the access with beach grass, there's some areas that have rugosa rows, those will be restored in kind. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thanks, Raul. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Raul. So, a couple of things. You're asking for the same order of conditions in which the clients didn't follow the last order.
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah.
I don't seem to hear anybody.
Oops.
Can you not hear me, Raul? Raul?
Row.
Oops.
Raul, can you hear me?
I think the answer is no.
How about now, Raul? There we
I
go.
don't,
So I have concerns permitting, a project in which the applicants didn't seem to follow the order of conditions the last time, the annual. I know that you had sent us transects and beach profiles when you applied for compliance, but it was supposed to be done on an annual basis, and those weren't received, as well as we didn't receive any of the annual reporting that was supposed to go to MISA. So we're not sure if that happened because they had a requirement from the Massachusetts Endangered Species Program. Can you kind of confirm whether those reports were annually filed with MISA and explain why the applicant didn't follow the last order of conditions and is requesting a new one? All right, now, Raul, now we're not hearing you.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Technology. So yes, my understanding is that the other condition that the applicant received in 2019 was not acted upon until this year. So there was no nourishment done. So the only information that was submitted was for the work that was done this year.
Okay.
And this is the year that order expired. So they're just closing it, and we're just asking for a new one just for them to also have in their back pocket for the future. And again, it's not for now. It is not needed now. So even we're asking for a 6-year, and I know staff is probably not recommending 6 years, but they do want to have this permit in hand for when it's needed.
Well, we can discuss with the board on how long they'd feel comfortable issuing a permit. 6 years is a little long, but we can discuss that. The other thing I want to say, Raul, is when you sent this to Natural Heritage, I'm not quite sure if they realized that you're going to be nourishing on the beach. They gave you a letter of no take. We know for a fact there are plovers there. They were running from Minot East to Minot Yacht Club this earlier this summer. So I'm inclined to add that time of year condition back because I'm not quite sure when they were reviewing, because if you put your plan up, you have the sand area distinctly in brown. And then this note with just this arrow that says, oh, we're going to do nourishment over here as well. And I'm afraid that we were shocked when we saw that letter from MISA that they did not put a time of year restriction on this.
Right. So this is the note that could easily kind of be overlooked. So we understood, and when we reviewed this with the homeowner, we understood that we were going to be restricted to the same time of year restriction. So we are in agreement that is something that we have to stay with.
Yeah. And we will, we didn't have time to let MISA know, but we'll probably be contacting MISA to let them know that they may have missed something and that we are putting that time of year restriction on this project. Under our local bylaw to protect the rare species. And I think that is all I have. I know I worked with your client earlier this year to get that sand on before that time of year restriction kicked in this year. So I think that's all I have. Raul, I think the beach grass is having a hard time over there because it keeps getting new plugs get put in every time you put new sand on it. So I think if we just avoid that area altogether, unless that area gets wiped out too, let's see if that beach grass can kind of grow. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Alyssa,
Just a note for Raul, it would probably be quite possible for them to request an extension too, as opposed to a very long order of conditions. So that could be another avenue. Thank you.
thank you. Jen, procedurally, do we normally allow, this is kind of like a preemptive permitting?
There are instances where you have like the town's comprehensive 10-year permit. I mean, we issued that for I think 5 and 5 or 10. Usually we'll just extend permits for kind of beach nourishment projects like this, but it's something we can talk about in deliberations. I would be comfortable giving them a 5-year, but anything longer than that, from a staff point of view, I would not be comfortable with.
Right, and as Alyssa pointed out, we can consider extensions. And did we get a new profile this year? Did you say that?
Well, yes, we did. When Raul submitted the compliance for this, he added the profiles, correct, Raul?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you said that, but I wasn't sure. All right.
Not a
Thank
problem.
you. All right. Kevin,
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
all right. Maury?
The only, I don't know if it's a suggestion or question, but where that beach grass seems to not be establishing itself, and that seems to be where you're getting the storm surges through that breach right there. Would you consider maybe more of a dune creation there with more Amorphola so that it does protect that beach that you're trying to continue to renourish?
A dune in the form of a piled up sand berm. I think we could attempt it, and if it fails, with the next time we come back, we just mention that it didn't work. But it could be that it is mounted, and yeah, it could be a possibility.
Yeah, it just seems like this is a perennial problem, that it's blasting through this, flat area. And, again, you don't want your revetment to be compromised. And Amorphola has incredible roots. So maybe even planting a little bit along that revetment. Again, I'm not designing the project, but I'm trying to help you prolong the agony of continuing, a large 6,000 cubic yards of beach nourishment. But other than that, I understand what they're trying to do, and I'm in agreement with staff that 5 years this is again a perennial project of maintenance, and I'm all set with that, and then maybe extensions. Thank you.
All right. Steve?
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, Melissa, were you proposing that this could be done as an extension?
No, I was saying that if the board decided to issue the typical 3-year order of conditions, we do frequently see beach nourishment projects and beach maintenance projects come back to us under an extension request for another 3 years or so. So that could be an option to reach that 6-year permitting standpoint that Raul's looking for.
Thank you for clarification. I don't have any other questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Betsy?
No questions, thanks.
All right. All right, I see that Courtney has joined us, but I'm going to keep you off the phone for this particular one. All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Not on this project, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Then I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
Carlo Hawk, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other comments or questions? All right, we're voting. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Steve?
Matt and I.
It is unanimous. With this quorum, we have closed this hearing. Thank you, Raul.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Night,
Night,
Raul.
Raul.
All right, again, Courtney has joined us, so he is now on the quorums going forward. Next up, John and Mildred Garrity, 32 Cove Street, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise, R-A-Z-E, an existing single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling, upgrade the existing sewage disposal system to an IA septic system, and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting Mike Borselli to present his project. I'm going to ask Alyssa to take this one. Trying to help Tim Santos. He has a hearing coming up and some of his people want to dial in and I can't seem to find the phone number for it. So Alyssa, if you can just get them through this hearing, I'm going to try to find the dial-in number for this Zoom call.
Yes, Mike,
Thank you.
am I also promoting Adrian?
Yes, please.
Okay. Can you do that, Jen, before you go?
Adrian, yep, I see her. Right, here we go.
Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Mike Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, along with Adrian Emmerich from Bernice Waller Landscape Design. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Sure.
Thank you. For just by way of orientation of where the property is located, hopefully you're seeing an aerial photo from the town GIS map. We've got the Great Pond Bridge here, Minot Road. We have the Green Pond Bridge here. We're kind of in the middle where this green rectangle is. That's the lot, which is very close to the corner of Pine Grove Ave and Cove Street. We are at 32 Cove Street. There's a little inlet off of the main part of Great Pond. And there's currently a 5-bedroom house on this lot with the typical landscaping driveway features that you're familiar with. I'll share with you now the site plans, starting with the existing conditions plan. So the existing conditions plan shows that house that I just showed you on the aerial photo. So there's an existing house. It's a split level design house. There's a large concrete patio adjacent to it. The wetland resources of note include land under the ocean, I guess, because it's Great Pond, a salt marsh system, which we've shown on the plan here. And it's also within land subject to coastal storm flowage. This blue line represents the boundary between AE 13 and AE 14. In the notice disturbance zone A from the salt marsh is shown. So the entire lot is basically in a no disturbance zone A. There's a paved driveway, a Title V septic system that you reviewed and approved in 2013 as an upgrade to an older system. There was an RDA back in 2013. There's an existing 1,000 gallon septic tank here, a pump chamber, and a Title V leaching field here. The proposed house is shown on this plan, and it has been completely redesigned to meet FEMA standards. The total number of bedrooms in this house actually is reduced from 5 to 4. The septic system is being upgraded from the approved 2013 system to a new system, but in this case, we're providing an enhanced treatment, denitrifying septic system as part of the project. Voluntarily, we're reducing the number of bedrooms from 5 to 4. We've actually been to the Board of Health because there's no way to fit the system either in the existing conditions or the proposed conditions and meet the setbacks to the salt marsh or property lines. So the owner is also cognizant of the potential for new requirements under DEP, under Title V, that may come down the road. Looks like 20 years maybe, but he still wants to be proactive. So this is an added enhancement to protect public health and the environment. As I typically do, I submitted with my application these exhibits that shade the impervious surfaces for the existing condition. And I've so you can see that patio, the house, and the driveway, and all the other things that are impervious. And I've done that also for the proposed situation. And the net result of all of that is that there is a net increase of 389 square feet under the proposed condition. And we're proposing a 3-to-1 mitigation requirement would be 1,167. We've rounded that up to 1,250. And it's shown shaded in green. It enhances the buffer to the salt marsh. If you note these tan areas, those aren't mitigation planting. Those are more restorative because they're within 10 feet. They're still native plants, but they're within 10 feet of the deck and we don't get to count them. And we also are planting around this tree, but we don't get to count around the tree as well. The landscape design was prepared by Bernice Waller, and Adrian can speak to that in a little bit more detail after I'm done. We are also, Kevin Clower from Mount Clower Law Firm has applied to the Board of Appeals because this is non-conforming to zoning setbacks. That hearing is scheduled for August 3rd. There is some regrading proposed as part of the redevelopment of the project that's going to allow for the required cover over the septic system. There's an average regrading filling, if you will, around the house of about 12 inches. And we've estimated the volume of fill to be about 150 cubic yards. There's a limit of work proposed. I show that with this line type with the small circles around the perimeter. There's a low profile landscape wall here to hold back some of the regrading that's necessary to cover these tanks. We're also proposing dry wells, and there's some other planting that is not mitigation that's also shown just for reference on my plan, but in more detail on the Bernice Waller plan. So I think in summary, we're doing a redevelopment project here. We were very specific to follow the requirements of FWR 10.18. By that, I mean we did not move closer to the wetland resource than the present primary structure. And that's demonstrated on the plan with the setbacks. We did make it slightly bigger. And we're proposing the mitigation planting as required under those provisions of your regulations. This new project is elevated, so the first floor is at 15, which is 2 feet above the base flood elevation. Your requirement's only 1, but because of the architectural design, it made sense to go to elevation 15. There's a reduction in bedrooms from 5 to 4. And I think in the end, this is an overall environmental improvement to the lot. I will close by making reference to the staff report. The majority of the comments or questions or clarifications were relative to the landscape design, but there are a couple that I should make note of. Evidently, when the RDA approved that septic upgrade in 2013, there was a requirement for 2 tupelo trees as part of that. And evidently they weren't planted. So We will be providing a revised landscape plan to show those other two tupelo trees and the other changes that are or clarifications that are outlined in the staff's comments. Let's see. There's a note about the ornamentals along the fence on this side of the property. There's some ornamentals that I did not show on the plan. I can most certainly add those to this existing conditions plan. There's some rhododendrons and things here that are not native plantings that would be replaced with native plantings. I think that sums it up for me. I am here for questions, and I will turn it over to Adrienne if she has a presentation, or if it's just questions and clarifications, we're happy to do that as well.
Thanks, Mike.
And I will stop sharing.
Adrian?
Yeah, I can walk you through the planting plan if you want. So, can everyone hear me and see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So as Mike said, what we're showing in the green shading here is all mitigation planting. We have 1,250 square feet. And for that, we are proposing about 40 shrubs within a matrix of native forbs and grasses. We felt that this was the most appropriate to the context of the site. We have the restoration planting that Mike mentioned, which will be the same species of plants, but we did not count that within the mitigation planting. And then we have 4 trees, 3 tupelo and 1 sweet bay magnolia. So I understand that I think the biggest question from the staff report was about the use of grasses and forbs as mitigation planting, which again, we felt that it was contextually appropriate to the site, and that we are using these shrubs kind of as the backbone of the planting area, and then adding the grasses and forbs in as kind of the matrix. But if you have questions about that, I can answer that.
All right. You good, Adrian?
Mm-hmm.
All right, you can stop sharing, please.
Okay.
Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. Jen, would you like to start again? Are you all set? Or do you want me to continue?
Yeah, I think we got the guy in, so, but if you can take it if you want.
Okay. Thank you, Mike and Adrian, for the presentation. Just following through on the staff report here. Mike, on the plan where you show the landscape wall, you also show sort of a triangle shape of native vegetation. Considering it's in the zone A, we would like to see that square footage restored on the site.
Yes, that's intended to be restored. I meant to mention that. If you look on the landscape plan, it's shown as part of the mitigation area.
Okay. The board will have to consider if that should be in addition to the required mitigation. Adrian, if you could show your plan again, can you show where the 4th tree was? I just couldn't find it on the plan. I was looking for those little plus symbols and I just... So we have the 2 sort of in the top corner there. That
Yes,
one.
we have
Yep.
This is also a tupelo.
Okay, so do you know where the
I think that
magnolia is going?
I think the magnolia have been planned to go here. It seems to be missing from this plan, but we'll add that in our revision.
Okay, perfect. And thank you for addressing the two tupelos from the previous RDA. I actually spoke with Adrian earlier when she gave our office a call, and I just tried to let her know that this board likes to see shrubs in terms of mitigation. Your typical 3 foot on center, and sort of the forbs and grasses acting as the understory. But I will let the board speak more on that to you, Adrian. We had also mentioned that, in the array of plantings, the Baccharis tends to be, from the seaward side to the landward side, when at the staff's point of view, it might function better on the seaward side in addition to the rest of the high marsh shrubs. And also we were a little confused on the use of sweet gale, as we don't see it too often, but it's listed as an obligate species. Adrian, I know you said that you guys have had success with it, so perhaps you can speak on that as well. Just as a technicality, there were 2 little circles of sweet gale shown in your hashed restoration area. So if you're counting those as mitigation, they should be moved into the green area.
We are not counting those as mitigation.
Okay, thank you. And then were you able to locate the 2 arrowwood on the plan? I think they might have just been mislabeled because I didn't see them.
Yeah, I think we have 2 extra plants that are labeled as sweet gale.
Okay.
Those 2 would be arrowwood.
Okay, thank you. Let me see. I think we're good with that plan, if you would like to take that down, Adrian.
Okay.
Mike, I know you had mentioned that there would be some fill run on the property. Will that go towards the backyard as well? Because there's quite a drop when you have that patio versus the lawn area. Will that sort of be evened out?
On the water side of the
Yeah.
lot, it's the fill tapers around the sides and diminishes to basically nothing or very little on the water side, because that lower level of the building, the so-called walkout level, if you will, is going to be at grade. So the bulk of the fill is between the house and the street. There's
Okay.
very little on the water side.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Mhm.
It looks like the property to the south is town property, and just a little bit of that existing concrete wall.
Yep.
It looks like a little clearing is on town property. I believe I saw that it was Concom on GIS. So they'll just have to give you permission in whichever form that comes into go onto the property and remove that from there. I think my last,
I'm hoping the order would allow us to.
yes, I would say that's likely. My last concern was the 3 trees in the backyard.
Yeah.
In the existing severely cut hedge that exists of salt marsh, shrubs, and what used to be 3 cedars. 1 was removed and the other 2 are now little balls. So the staff would like to see those restored to some capacity, and perhaps the commission can decide on if they'd like them to just, the 2 that are cut to regenerate, or if they'd like to see additional trees planted. That covers it for the staff report. Jen, did you have anything you'd like to add?
Just to call out that, the way this board typically wants your mitigation done would roughly, equal about 150 shrubs. And the mitigation plan has 40. So it's about less than a third of shrubs that you would typically see in a mitigation area. And that 40 is counting, I'm assuming counting the 2 little sweet gale that we were just told are not part of that mitigation. So maybe 38.
No, that 40 does not count.
Oh, it doesn't count the 2 little ones. Okay, great. So 40.
Yeah.
Versus the 150 that when this board likes your 3 feet on center spacing, which is really tight. So we have about less than a third of the required shrubs. And
Right.
that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, commissioner comments. Maureen, we're going to start with you.
Good evening, Adrian and Mike. What is a white strip along that east side in between the plantings?
That's a walkway.
What kind of walkway?
I don't think we had specified a material. It would probably be lawn.
Yeah, it wouldn't be an impervious material. It's just a path, basically.
So like a grass path. So how are you going to walk through all those shrubs? All right, anyway, Mike, first floor elevation, I know you stated it, but it's not on your plan.
Yes, I know. I saw that. That's why I
Yeah.
stated it.
Okay, it needs to be on your plan.
Yep.
And I'm glad to see that they're being proactive with the nitro.
Mhm.
I would have to say that I have to agree with Jen. It's a predominantly grass between, sweet gale and switch grasses. We have woody indigenous as the predominant structure of mitigation and restoration plantings in this particular area. So I would have to agree with Jen that 40 is a trophic, and we would have to bump that way up and eliminate more of the grasses. And the trees, I think the two red X's, what are the two trees that have the red X's?
Those trees are being removed. So the 4 trees that we discussed providing, 2 of them are to replace those trees. The other 2 are for mitigation, and then we will have to add 2 for the 2 below that were supposed to be installed in 2013.
What are the DBH of the 2 that you're removing?
Sorry.
What is the DBH and species of the 2 you're removing? It's not on the plan.
Oh, I think I have that. I actually don't know what species they are. We have them listed as. Mike, do you know what those are?
The proposed?
The 2 that are being removed.
I believe they're oaks, but I'd have to double check. I'm fairly certain they're oaks.
Yeah. Well, one's a 24-inch oak, I believe, and the other is a 12-inch double oak. So I'm just curious why we're removing them.
Well, the ones they're out on the street side, and they're nearby to the septic, and I believe that they were proposed to be removed because of that by Bernice's office.
Well, I'm not seeing that as a real problem to the septic or anything else. So I think you might want to rethink removing those 2 large trees, because we're going to ask for more trees to replace the DBH of those that you're removing. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand the issues about the planning plan, but overall, I think the plan is an improvement on the current site location. I'm not the expert on the planning structure, so I defer to others for that. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Betsy?
No, I'd like to, Mike and Adrian, I don't know if you want to address what you're going to do about the trees now and what you're going to do about the additional shrubs, or will we eventually have a continuance to get a new plan?
Yeah, I think through you, Mr. Chairman, to answer Commissioner Gladfelder, we hear you loud and clear about the grasses and the orbs and the woody shrubs and a couple of matters related to trees like the cedars that were cut, and we can reconsider the oaks out front. So when the dust settles, I think we're going to need a revised landscape plan for this that would rise to the level of needing a continuance. I don't think you'd feel comfortable conditioning. So we understand that you're gonna want to see a revised landscape plan. And there's a few things on my plan, like the first floor elevation, for instance, that I can add to my plan. So continuance is certainly warranted. The Board of Appeals hearing is on the 3rd of August, and then there's a lot of time before they issue their decision. So it's not like we're concerned about time, and we'd rather satisfy you that you can issue that when you, assuming you issue a favorable order, there's not a need for revisions and things, and it's more clean.
Okay, that's all. Thanks, Jamie.
All right. Courtney?
I echo Betsy's sentiments and think it's be good to have a continuance, and that's all I have.
All right.
I think I am hoping that we can get more clarity about what is required in terms of percentage of shrubs. If that's something that can be discussed.
Adrian, we can schedule a Zoom call with you.
Okay.
Okay. And give you, I know that we met, but when we met on Zoom, the plan was so small, we couldn't see it. And I think at that time I said, send us your plan and we'll look at it. We really couldn't see what you were proposing when we had the Zoom call. So if you want, we can schedule a Zoom call with you before before a plan revision would be required. Okay. Give you a little bit more clarity on what this particular board likes to see.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see if we can't get you something to work with. Mike, just going back to the
Excuse me, can we finish with commissioner comments?
Oh, I'm
please?
sorry. I didn't realize that.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Jamie.
Kevin, you better have a bunch of stuff, because I just shut her down so that you could talk like for a long time, so.
Well,
I'm
thank you for
kidding.
the opportunity, but given the opportunity, I think I'll keep quiet and wait for the continuance.
Chicken. All right. Jen.
Mike, sorry about that, Jamie. Mike, just when the comment about the path, and you said you didn't have the materials yet, just be careful that if you make it pervious, that doesn't support natural vegetation, you're in that zone A to that salt marsh, so that would be also require some sort of mitigation. So I'm thinking Maury's idea of a grass path is probably best. But just keep that in mind. It just kind of stuck with me when you said you weren't sure of the materials yet.
Well, no, I'm very much aware of the requirement for 3-to-1 on anything pretty much, but grass or bark mulch, I suppose. So we don't want to generate the need for more mitigation.
Oh, absolutely. I just wanted you to keep that in mind.
Yep, understood.
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
There's nothing in the public chat function for this hearing, and nobody has their hand raised for this hearing.
All right, thank you. All right, so I think we're going to be looking for a continuance. So Mike and Adrian, are you clear on what we're looking for?
I think I've been taking
Or
notes.
that Zoom call may address that.
I think I'm
Sorry.
fairly clear, and I'm think between what we both the notes we've taken in the Zoom call, we'll be able to get this buttoned up for you folks. And I would request a continuance to the 9th of August. That would give us enough time.
No, sorry, Mike. The 9th, I think, is. Hang on, let me look. Hang on. I got 5 new notices, 1 continued, and 1 new AOC. Oh, we could put you on the 9th, Mike.
That'd be great, because I don't think you're meeting on the 16th, and that.
No, we're not. So, and then I'm not in the office tomorrow, but Friday I have anywhere between, I'd say 11 and I have a meeting at 2. So if Adrian, if you're free, Mike, you're free anytime in that, let's say 11 to 2 time frame, I could do a Zoom call.
We'll get that. Okay. We'll get that ironed out with you.
Okay. Just if you want to do that with Alyssa tomorrow by email, that'd be great.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so Mike, is that your request?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so the request is a continuance until August 9th. Maury? You're on mute.
You're muted, Maury.
I'm sorry, the wall, Mike, that's near the path that I had concern about. What is that? How high is that wall gonna be?
It's about 3 feet or less in height. It's basically a low profile landscape wall.
Well, 3 feet's a pretty substantial wall in the A buffer. So I just wanted, and again, the shrubbery and what you're proposing, that path is very narrow. So I have a concern with that spot right there.
I guess
Is
I
it
need
a-
a
is it a wet
clarification. Could I get a clarification on that? A little bit more clarification because I want to address it properly. So,
Well, put your plan up, Mike.
all right.
Please.
Please.
So I think we're talking about this wall here.
Yes,
Yep.
in the unknown path, yeah, the path of maybe grass.
Well, what path? The path I thought you were talking about was this path.
Over on the other side.
No,
Right.
I'm talking about that path that where the wall is.
There's no path proposed.
That's
here.
not a path.
That's just a wall.
And a strip of mitigation planting.
Okay,
Yep. No path here.
okay, so that's and you have that 3-foot wall, so it doesn't have to be engineered. And it is a wet wall?
I don't believe it's been designed, to be honest with you. It was I think that if you need a detail of it, that Bernice's office can provide that.
Okay.
This
Actually,
was an effort to like regrade for this denitrifying septic tank, and then not have to, slope off the property. That was the purpose for it.
right.
There was no footing proposed, if that's what you're concerned about. It'd probably be one of those, block walls, or, there's no aesthetic value to it because you can't really see it. It's just to ease that slope a little bit.
So how much grade change is there? I'm looking at, all right, 3 feet, okay. Yep,
Yeah,
so that's why you're proposing the 14-inch oak has to be removed.
that one, yes.
Well,
Yes.
I think you should rethink your wall there.
All right, I'll make a note of that.
For both 14-inch oaks. Those are huge trees that take up a lot of water. In the A buffer. Anyway, thank you. Sorry to carry that on. But I know you wanted clarification before the continuing.
Yep, we'll look into that.
All right. Anything else from the commissioners? All right. Mike or Adrian, do you have anything you want to add at this point?
Nope.
Nothing at this point.
All right. So I would take a motion and a second for continuance until August 9th.
So I'll make a motion to continue this hearing until August 9th. Gladfelter.
Bird second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until August 9th. We've already acknowledged that there is nobody in the public chat function. So any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting for this continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Steve.
And I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until August 9th. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, commissioners.
Night, Mike.
See you next time.
Night, Adrian. We'll see you on Zoom.
Next up, continued requests for a hearing under notice of intent. Robert A. Ament, Esquire, trustee, 40 Associates Road Nominee Trust, 40 Associates Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct an existing licensed walkway in kind.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant has reconsidered the project and is requesting to withdraw.
All righty. Short and sweet. All right, bear with me 1 second. All right, that brings us to Falmouth Resort Owner LLC, 350 Quaker Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct 4 cottage-style hotel buildings, reconfigure the driveway and parking areas, install a stormwater management system, and to modify an existing unit. And just as a reminder, for public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. Please be aware of what our purview is. We don't do zoning and such, so let's try to keep things succinct. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Tim Santos up as to present his project for Merrill Engineering. And just a word to everybody in the audience. If you'd like to comment, please raise your hand and I'll promote you once the presentation is over. Thank you.
Good evening.
Hold on, Tim.
Sure.
Alyssa, for the record, this wasn't open. It is a continued hearing, but it wasn't open. So the quorum is all of us tonight. Okay.
Correct.
Sorry, Tim.
No, no worries. No
You're
worries.
up, sir.
Good evening. For the record, Tim Santos from Merrill Engineers representing the applicant. With your permission, I will share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Everybody can see that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, excellent. The project is located at 350 Quaker Road. It's also known as the Seacrest Beach Resort Hotel. The property is approximately 21 acres in size and is developed with 9 beach resort hotel buildings, pool area, beach location along Buzzards Bay, various parking lots, paved walkways, developed lawn and landscaped areas. I am going to, hold on a second. I need to switch between screens. No, that's not the one, sorry. The resources areas on or within 100 feet of our proposed project are Potter's Hole, the pond area, salt marsh, border of vegetated wetland and salt marsh associated with the pond. There's a coastal bank back here and land subject to coastal storm flowage. Behind this building to the north, there is a dune behind this building as well. So the applicant is proposing to redevelop the eastern portion of the site adjacent to the pond over the existing tennis courts and paved areas. The proposed project is to construct 4 cottage-style hotel units, along with installation of drainage, utilities, grading, and restoration that would be involved with this type of project. There is approximately 7,000, it's like 6,800 plus or minus, I'll just call it 7,000 square feet reduction in impervious area being reduced in this area under the redevelopment part of the project. All the remaining areas that are currently impervious that won't be either the reconfigured driveways or the buildings will be loamed and seeded and landscaped. All the roof runoff from these 4 new buildings will go to dry wells as shown on the plan. We did meet with staff to review the staff report. We met with them earlier this week. We reviewed a few of their comments. We've prepared a revised plan that hasn't been submitted yet. We did add the FWR V zone, the 25-foot offset onto sheet 1. I apologize, that was left off inadvertently. And then we reviewed some of the areas. We're proposing 1,300 square feet of restoration plantings here on this part of the bank. When we did the survey back in January, this was probably mowed in the fall, and this is kind of where the edge of the clearing was. If you go out in the field today, it's grown back in. So we agreed it doesn't make any sense to remove the existing vegetation that's grown back in that area and plant those restoration plantings. As I stated earlier, there is a 7,000 square foot reduction in impervious for this project, so there are no mitigation plantings required. What we did talk about doing was installing, and I'm going to kind of jump over to our revised plan, which hasn't been submitted, but just to talk about it, installing post rail fence that kind of runs along the edge of the cleared areas to prevent any further or future clearing by staff, which were unaware that they couldn't clear these areas. So we talked about this area here. When you go behind these storage trailers, there's an area in the aerial photos that shows this area being cleared. I'm gonna assume it probably was cleared because there's an electric manhole here and some sort of maintenance needed to take place. So it probably was overgrown and they cleared that area. We talked to staff and agreed it made sense to install a post rail fence here, and we would remove the debris and we would replant this area with 200 square feet of restoration plantings and leave this area open to allow access to the manhole in the future. And as we continue to move to the south, we looked at this area here. There's a pile of debris here that we agreed that could be removed as part of the project, and we would also install a post rail fence in this area as well to prevent any future cutting of the invasives or knotweed without permission from this board. We did talk about installing a root barrier in this area here. If you've been to the site, you can see this area back here behind what I'm going to call Unit 9. This area back here is all knotweed. So we did talk about that. So on the revised plans that will be coming before you soon, we did talk about a few of these things here. Let me just kind of continue to go through my list. I think I hit all those post rail fence lands. So also part of this project, this building here, it's known as Unit 904. They're going to be doing some interior renovations, and they're also going to reconstruct the front entrance, remove the side entrance, and construct the new rear entrance and in the back. Overall, this project is a reduction on impervious areas because it currently exists as tennis court and parking. We feel this project meets your performance standards, and we feel that this board can close this hearing tonight to take it under advisement. I have no problem answering any questions. There's also a few other team members on here that if I can't answer the questions, you can promote them and they could help me out. So I will stop sharing and then address any of your concerns.
Thanks, Tim. Jen?
Yes, Tim, thank you. And thank you for meeting the staff out there. Yeah, we figured your client just was unaware of the encroachment. So let's just keep them to where they are. Can you just do me a favor and address the town engineer report, please?
Sure.
On your stormwater. Address Scott's comments, please.
So Scott had a few comments. Let me let me pull this back up here. Sorry, hold on. I did the wrong thing. I need to share. All right, you guys can see that?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. So one of Scott's concerns was this manhole right here. Currently, there's a line that comes from this manhole to this manhole, and we're proposing to reconfigure or realign that line so that it doesn't go below the building. Right now, this existing manhole has two lines coming in and one leaving. It's an older manhole. We felt that coring a new hole here probably wasn't the best thing to do. So we just go a few feet outside the manhole and put a 45 in to come over to this new manhole. One of Scott's comments was that typically he likes to see manhole at all change directions. If, you know, this board or Scott doesn't feel that's acceptable, what I would probably suggest is that we just remove this manhole and install a new manhole rather than, so that we can get the angle correct for the pipe going across there. He also made a comment about not having an existing conditions plan. If the board wants one, I'd be more than happy to supply one. He talked about the delineation of the drainage areas and the grading plan. So let me move back over here on if you review our report, our drainage areas include the buildings and any reconfigured or any regraded areas in this area here to go to these dry wells. We did not examine the entire site. This is a redevelopment project. Again, it's 7,000 square foot plus or minus, decrease in impervious area. So right there in itself is an improvement to the existing drainage system that's there, because less stormwater is going to be heading to that existing drainage system with the reduction. So most of these comments, we have to go to planning board, we have to go to zoning. So I can address some of his concerns when I get to that board. He had questions about supplying calculations and additional for the stormwater recharge. I can supply those calculations to him. And then he mentioned something about an operation maintenance manual plan that was supplied, but I think he might be looking, we had a comment that the long-term plan would remain in effect and any illicit discharge plan would remain in effect for the existing system. We weren't planning on changing that plan. All of those plans would remain as is. So there might be some just confusion, or I just need to talk through that with Scott so that we're both on the same page.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. You take your plan down. I think I might feel more comfortable keeping this open until that conversation with Scott takes place and our town engineering department is satisfied. But that'll be up to the board. That's just staff's suggestion.
Just for the record, most of it is just paperwork that he's looking to see. Unless the town, this board, or another board's going to say we need to examine the entire drainage system for the entire 21-acre site, which on redevelopment projects we never really done. We examined the drainage for this area and what we were doing for redevelopment, and we believe what we supplied meets the performance standards.
Okay, if you're saying Scott's just looking for some additional paperwork, then that's fine. We can condition that.
And again, like I said, we still have to go to planning. We still have to go to zoning. So he's going to issue a referral to both of those boards, and both of those boards are going to want me to address all of his concerns before they'll approve as well. So.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Righty, Alyssa.
No comments. Thank you.
All right, Tim, one of the first things you said is about having to supply a revised plan. Why would you not expect a continuance?
I probably would expect a continuance. We continued last week's meeting so we can meet with staff, and I appreciate that. And I was only able to make those changes Monday. And, Alyssa and I did talk about this, that more than likely you would want a continuance, or maybe leaving the hearing open so we could supply the revised plan. But it's up to this board. The changes on the plan were minimal. It was what staff requested.
Okay, and do you have dates for planning and zoning yet?
I do not have those dates.
You've applied though, correct?
Yes, correct. The Mettenclower has applied. He has not received dates. I'm going to assume that we're probably sometime in August, towards the beginning of August for the planning, and then we would be sometime the beginning of September for zoning, but they have not issued dates yet.
Okay, but you've applied for them.
Correct.
That's the important part. Okay. All right. Commissioner comments. Steve, we're going to start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any comments or questions. I think he outlined the plan well. I had some concern about the proximity to the non-conservation issues, so I won't ask any more questions.
All right. Betsy.
So, Tim, I didn't really walk around the site to see how much knotweed is around, but if it's just concentrated in one area instead of, well,
I'll let you finish. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have interrupted.
okay. So I was just going to say, instead of doing, instead of that restoration planting area, maybe you could do a knotweed eradication. Unless that's a huge.
Yeah, I did talk with the listener. I mean, there's quite a bit of knotweed and invasives. There's Phragmites back there too. And we both felt that the project as kind of submitted and advertised doesn't kind of warrant an amendment for that type of work. And if we were to do that type of work, it would be a new filing. And so that's kind of why we talked about the root barrier, just maybe to prevent any further creep of that knotweed back into the lawn area behind those units.
Yeah, but if you have flowering knotweed, you're going to have knotweed spreading into other areas.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I'll talk about with the owners. But obviously it wouldn't be part of this application that's before you.
Okay, thanks. That's all, Jamie.
Thank you.
All right. Courtney.
My comments are essentially the same as Betsy's. I think it's a real priority for you guys to develop a program to control knotweed and Phragmites and that kind of stuff. Because that's really, I mean, the rest of the project is good, but I think that's where your focus should be. No other questions.
All right. Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Maury.
I just had 3. I'm glad you're going to put that fence up, first of all, for the preventing for future clearing. The sewer treatment plant has a capacity for these 4 new units.
Yes, the treatment plant has a capacity of, I believe, 85,000 gallons per day. And I believe the average flow going through there is around 30,000 gallons per day. Okay, so there's plenty of room for it.
Plenty of room. Thank you. And do you have the calculations, Tim, for if it's going to get continued? You said that there'll be a reduction in impervious, and I just would like to know.
Yeah, it's on the plan. It's like 6,877 maybe. It is on the plan, and in the notice of intent application, I did supply a 11 by 17 mitigation exhibit that shows that as well.
Okay, thank you. And then the last thing is the storage trailers. Are they considered structures as far as, any mitigation that we need for those? I think there are 4 or 5 of them. I don't know how big they are, but I'm sure they just accumulate because you need extra storage.
Yeah, I mean, I believe they're used for storage of tables and chairs during the winter.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I had.
All right. We're going to open up to public comments, and I just remind everybody that, as you heard Tim say, they will be getting their date for the hearing for the planning and the zoning. So those are out of our purview. So not looking to discourage anyone, but there's just some things that are outside of our jurisdiction. So Jen, public comments and chat, please.
Yes, I have one hand raised. Sarah Hines I'm promoting her as a panelist.
All right.
Okay, Sarah, you're in a panelist. You need to turn your microphone on. You're on mute right now. And if you have a camera, you'd like to turn that on, that would be great.
I thought I could be seen. That's what I asked earlier. But nonetheless, thank you very much for listening to me. I'm a neighbor to the hotel right now. And next to building 904, I think it was 904 on the plan, there's an existing cottage. And in the back of that cottage, there's a large seating area, outdoor, and that cottage is often used by wedding parties. And because of the proximity to the water, and the sound level is bad. It's very loud for the neighbors, including me. And I know that that's an existing structure and nothing can probably be changed about that, but outdoor seating, common areas near the water should be a concern for all of the owners. And I am opposed to those areas being built. I don't mind if people have a place to stay. I am not opposed to the structures being built, but outside congregating deck areas is a big problem for the neighborhood, and I'm speaking from experience. I'm also curious to know if the outside seating area in the cottage, which is next to unit 904, if that was permitted. And I'm not sure or not. It wasn't shown to us at the time when the structure was being built. And had we known outside area where 50 to 100 people can congregate after any event at the hotel, I would have opposed it. So I guess that's my cross to bear, but I do not recommend that outside seating areas be developed so close to the water because of the effect that it has on the neighborhood and the abutters. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And I think, you may want to bring up that concern. Unfortunately, we have a fairly narrow purview, but definitely concerns with noise and light can be addressed by either the zoning board of appeals or you have to go to planning, correct, Tim?
Right.
Yeah, site plan review and planning.
So I'm not sure how to get invited to something like that, but maybe I'll reach out online separately.
So they'll be scheduling a hearing, and Tim, you'll be notifying the abutters for.
The town notifies the abutters.
Yeah, so I would just call over to the zoning board of appeal and the planning offices and find out when their hearings will be scheduled.
That'd
And
be
it will
great.
be advertised in the newspaper as well.
Thank you.
Not a problem, Ms. Hines. I'm going to move you back over. If you're all set, I'm going to move you back over to an attendee.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Hang on, Courtney, I have to. Oh, there's Ms. Hines. Okay. Change role to attendee. I at this time do not see any other chat or any other hand raised on this project.
Okay, so hold on, Betsy. So just to be clear to the public that, there's other issues besides conservation, not to make it sound negative, Tim. They have to go before planning and zoning. So there's other avenues for your particular concerns. So again, we don't want to sound like, we're unconcerned with what you're thinking about. There's just some things that are for other boards. So Betsy.
So we did get a letter that Jen and Alyssa sent to all of us, and the person who wrote it brought up a concern that actually relates to conservation, and that is lighting.
Yep.
And Tim, did you get a copy of this letter?
I did not.
So, you know, in any pond area like this, lighting, excessive lighting can be a problem for
Yeah.
nocturnal.
Sure, I understand what you're saying. I mean, we could probably either promote Greg Cerrone, the architect, or Dave McCaslin. He's the gentleman of the number that I gave you, Jen. He's the owner rep. I'm sure one of the two of them could talk about the lighting. I don't believe we're proposing any like lamp posts or anything. It would just be typical lighting on the units themselves. But I'll let them address that.
Okay, the gentleman on the phone has since disappeared again. So I will promote Greg up. He's the architect.
Yes, Greg Cerrone from Resco.
Yeah. And Tim, we'll shoot you over that letter. I apologize. We'll shoot you over that letter tomorrow.
Okay, not a problem.
Alyssa, you can just forward him your response to him. Okay, Greg, I have promoted you. There we go. Do you have a camera, Greg?
I do. I don't know why it's not turning on. Let me try that again.
Thank you, sir.
And it's saying something about my privacy settings. I'm on my iPad, so I don't usually use my iPad. All right, well, let me just sort of talk through this. So the lighting that we are proposing, as Tim had mentioned, is just normal residential lighting, mainly for egress and egress.
I'm going to stop you right there, Greg. I apologize. Tim, can you share your screen? One of the attendees had asked that during questioning if you could put your screen back up. That would be helpful for them. Thank you. Sorry about that, Greg. Go on.
So again, as Tim mentioned, he is correct that it would just be normal residential lighting at the units. We're not doing anything special to shine out away from the building. Anything that we do that might be higher up on the building, we'll make sure it has cutoffs so it does not stretch out to any of the resource areas. And again, that would be minimal. We haven't evaluated, that type of slope of light, but we would certainly make sure that anything that might be a little bit higher would have a cutoff.
Okay, thanks. You can keep that in mind when you get to that
Yeah,
level of detail.
And it would be normally something we would do. We're not going to want to make these, just for the area that we're in, as well as the units themselves. We're not going to want a lot of light that is going to shine on the units themselves. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You want me to take it down, Jen?
I think I can see. I don't see anybody else's hand raised. You can take it down, Tim. Might have you put it back up, but
That's fine.
for right now, it's down. Nope, I think nobody else has their hand raised, and there's nothing in the chat other than Miss Hines saying she knows we care. We do care. That's it.
Maury?
I'm just going to follow up with Betsy in that letter that I was going to recommend when we did deliberation for dark sky lighting. The first floor of these are over 18 feet. So I don't know if they're 2-story or 1-story, but are they going to be at the 35-foot height?
So I'm not sure the exact height. I know they're over 30
So-
feet. Greg can answer that.
All right, so they're going to.
Yeah. Any lighting that is on the upper floors would strictly be recessed lighting that would shine down. We're not going to have ornamental fixtures.
All right, because that is a big concern. When these were low profile, like the ones that are there now, at elevation 9, now we're at elevation 30. It creates a light pollution issue on Potter's Pond.
Again, I honestly can't see any light making its way to the pond, given the style that we'll be using.
Okay, so it'll all be downward lighting and low voltage.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And
Doesn't mean
Maureen and
that-
Betsy, we can relay these concerns to the Zoning Board of Appeals as well. when they send us, both planning and zoning will send us a referral. And
Yeah,
we
because
can put in those comments to that referral.
Because even we had one on, I think it was Glock, and it was supposed to be night sky and they're LED. And even though they shine down, you go by there at night and it looks like a prison. So I just think lighting is huge, not just for on our purview, but for the neighbors as well.
I think you can condition that too. I
Yeah.
don't see an issue
Yeah.
with it.
Thank you. Thank you, Betsy.
All right, so from what I see, we're looking for a revised plan, and I don't know, I'm of the opinion we want to hear what Scott's response is to Tim's response. So having said that, if I'm going to ask one more time, the public chat function, we've covered everything, everybody.
It appears we have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, just want to be fair. I know there's a lot of people waiting for this.
Yeah.
All right. So I would look for a motion and a second, whatever you guys think you want to provide.
Tim, you're with us on the 9th now.
Yeah, the problem is I'm on vacation next week, so I'm not sure I'd have enough time to get. If it was just a revised plan, I can get that to you tomorrow. But if going back and forth with Scott might take a little longer.
23rd.
So that, unfortunately, it would have to be the 23rd.
Okay.
So at the request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue this hearing till August 23rd.
Heard second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this until August 23rd. Any other questions or comments? All right. I'm hearing none, so we're going to vote, and this is to continue until August 23rd. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Heard, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Arlo Hawks, aye.
Steve?
And I,
It is unanimous. We have continued this until August 23rd. Thank you, Mr. Santos.
Thank you for your time. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you in a few weeks.
Thanks,
Happy
Have a good
vacation.
vacation, Tim.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
All right. Next up, request to amend an existing order of conditions. James F. Mooney III, 188 Gansett Road Realty Trust, 188 Gansett Road, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4644 to reconfigure the pool area, install a generator and AC units, relocate a portion of the mitigation plantings, and revise the previously proposed retaining wall. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am in the middle of promoting everybody up. Okay. Promoting Doug up. Dan, I'm coming to get you. And Miss Higgins, I am grabbing you right now. Okay. I think I have everybody up. So where did Doug go? I see Dan. Doug. Dan. Here comes Doug. Anybody else on your project team? I have Cape and Islands, Wilkinson, and Saline. That it?
Sounds right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Snyder, you're up, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Here on behalf of the applicants for 188 Gansett Road. This is a request for an amended order of conditions for a project that dates back to an order of conditions that was issued back in May of 2021. We also have with us Wilkinson Ecological Design and Rucci Sloan, landscape architects on the project. And with your permission, I would like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. Hopefully you can see that.
Yes.
Project in front of you is in 188 Canson Road. That is up in the Woods Hole area. And current site, again, subject to the order conditions to remove the existing house and rebuild a new one, including decks, driveways, rinse stations, pool cabana, and new septic system. This is a most recent up-to-date near map photo of the site showing the new house under construction and the pool under construction and the limit of work that's taking place right now. The amended order in front of you involves reducing the size of the pool from what was previously proposed, relocating the spa from the east side to the west side of the site, and reducing the size of the just I zoom in here a little bit onto the plan, reducing the size of the pool, the cabana, the deck. The spa originally was on the east side of this deck area. It's now on the west side. That all results in about a 20-foot reduction in the work on the west side, moving it in east. We're adding let's see if I got a pen on here to, no, that was not what I wanted, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. We've got a generator pad that's being added and gravel areas being added on the easterly side of the garage. And that all results in a net, a net reduction in impervious areas within the B zone of about 323 square feet. No changes in the A zone. Reduces our overall mitigation that we need from 14,268 square feet down to 13,622. And there's grading changes that take place in the western part of the house and southerly of the pool in terms of that's mostly outside of the jurisdiction, but some within the jurisdiction of the 200-foot within the B zone. When we jump over to the eastern side of the property, the area shown in green here was all mitigation. There is an existing pathway that leads up through to the abutting property that they'd like to maintain at least part of the property. So the mitigation changes up just a little bit. Since we're reducing some of the area where the pool was, we really don't have much of a change in the mitigation, but we are adding some that you see highlighted in yellow. More of a restoration than a mitigation, I think, but the numbers all seem to work out pretty nicely. And that sums it up in a nutshell as to what's going on. Like I said, the house is well under construction, and the current order is valid through May of 24. So we're looking for an amended order. I'm going to jump to the where am I going here? There we go. We have a landscaping plan in front of you also that details all the plantings around the house, which I will let the landscape architects talk on that. And then we also have the restoration plan and mitigation plan by Wilkinson, which they'll address themselves. And if you want, I can leave my screens shared, or we can pass on to the next group.
Yeah, why don't you take yours down? I'm sure they have their own.
Actually,
Hold on.
this is Dan Soline, project landscape architect. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dan. I guess you're up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Dan Soline, project landscape architect. Doug, actually, I think it would be helpful if you could just bring your screen back up, and then go to the landscape plan. Yeah, just to explain my role relative to the Wilkinson role. I'm essentially, designing all the improvements, in proximity to the house and the pool, and the ornamental landscaping, lawn areas, and paths. All things essentially inboard, landward from the work in mitigation work and the restoration work. Essentially, the major changes, as Doug pointed out, are the pool area, which has gotten smaller pool. The spot got shifted over into an area that was previously pool footprint, but overall shortening of the pool from the west. And then the generator. Those are really the two major changes in basically the hard features of the project. Let's see. No real major changes. Otherwise, I noticed that there was a staff comment about a planting area or vegetation area that was part of the history of the property. It's referred to in the Wilkinson plan as a hedge. It's sort of the area that was kind of in the hollow there west of the lawn. The history of this property included 3 huge massings of junipers, 2 of which were removed for the construction of the pool and the house. It was our hope and the owner's request to preserve the junipers that were in the area of that hollow. Unfortunately, the site contractors had a different idea, in mind, and they removed those junipers, without, just it was a mistake. And so the plan includes the replacement of those junipers in a similar footprint, large size, and then we also augmented the plantings in that area with 48 bayberries that lie to the south of the junipers. So all of that work has been done. The work, essentially, we're backing our way out of the property from a construction standpoint, trying to finish things on the west side, because the access to the rear yard gets complicated. After the pool deck is constructed, so that planting work has been done, and it looks great. I think that's really it on my end. There was a comment about the terrace. The terrace that's on this plan, the rear of the house, is actually smaller than the area that was the terrace on the original plan. But it's outside jurisdiction, so it doesn't really count towards mitigation in any case. So that's all I have to say about that. Happy to answer any questions. I'll turn the presentation over to Katrin from Wilkinson.
Yep.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Katrin Higgins from Wilkinson for the record. And so we submitted a revised plan, and essentially it's really we're just talking about a slight shift in the location of the mitigation. Overall, we're proposing the same square footage, same number of shrubs, same number of trees. In a way, it's actually moving closer to the resource area. in most spots, I believe. So the darker green are those little like wedges and little bits of mitigation that we've moved to accommodate that 3-foot wide walking path, but it's essentially an existing path. So we found square footage that was unplanted areas, and so we're just kind of shifting. As I said, it's a small shift in location of the mitigation. There was a comment today in the staff report that our plant specifications was off, and thank you for pointing that out. That there's a lot going on in this plan and we missed that. So we've actually revised that. I could show you that plan tonight, or we could submit it later, but we have made that correction. So thank you for pointing that out. So overall, this is just small changes, minor changes. Overall, we're still proposing the same ecological restoration overall on the property. It's about an acre of restoration, 40,000 square feet, and specifically the 15,000 square feet of mitigation, and the rest was to the west. It's more of a meadow restoration, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Katrine.
Thank you.
Doug, you can stop sharing. Thank you. Jen.
So Dan, I have a question for Dan. So you're saying you've already replanted the hedge area?
Well, I think that the hedge area is it's sort of a misnomer. I don't really, I mean, it was labeled a hedge. It wasn't really a hedge. It was a massing of junipers that were decades old. And you know, the intent and the permit, allowed for their preservation. And it's a mistake by the site contractor to remove them on day one of their work. And so we have, the owner was quite upset. The contractor, offered to replace them. And, we have assisted in the process of simply replacing the same plant in the same location and repairing what we broke.
But there were no grasses over there.
No grasses?
Do you have photos of the area? I mean, you're planting something that we haven't even been able to evaluate, and you're already replanting it. That's my concern.
Well,
I can see the limit of work in the aerial, so I don't know how they passed over their limit of work unless.
No, this was fully within the limit of work. The area where the vegetation was removed is fully within the limit of work.
Not as it's shown on the aerial, Dan. I can see the limit of work. I can see it right in the area. I'm
assuring you, Jennifer, that the work that the plants that were removed is fully within the limit of work, and I'd be happy to meet with you to go over that. That in fact was the problem that we learned from that. The plan indicated plants to be preserved within the limit of work, but the general contractor simply started removing everything within the limit of work. So this is within the limit of work. That was a big point of contention, in this. So I'm quite sure of that.
Fine. Katrin, if you say you've revised your plan to correct that, okay, if you could get that over to us so we can do that. And I think the rest of the staff's comments were more housekeeping issues on all the plans. I know, Doug, there was a slight plan revision that you needed to do. And that's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. I think the only other comment is, I believe on the Wilkinson plan, it doesn't reflect the proposed changes like the changing of size of the pool and the terrace and such. If all three plans could match to some degree, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have that changed too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Back to Dan. How many junipers were replaced, Dan?
How many were replaced?
Yes.
So First of all, it's hard to tell, Jennifer, because when you have decades-old junipers that have grown into mass, it's impossible to tell how many are there. It's essentially one big 50-foot wide, shrub composed of many plants. So we simply replace the same plant in the same location within the limit of work.
How many junipers did you plant in that area?
I think there were 26.
26? And
Right.
where is that reflected on your plan, in your plant table? I don't.
Near the, it's near the plant list schedule.
I'm looking at the schedule, Dan. Where is it? Can you point to the schedule on me?
I need to
Are
look
you
at the
talking
plan.
about your green giant arborvitae?
Green giant, no.
Okay, so what are you talking about?
I'll need to see the plan.
Okay.
Do not have the plan, Dan?
I don't have it on my, I was relying on Doug, to show that plan.
Because right now on your plan, I have Eastern
to bring
Red
it back up?
Cedars listed out as 7. And then some Heights Juniper listed as 2.
Jen, I think I found it.
Okay.
That's in the wrong location.
Oh, okay.
There's a label next to it that says 26 JCP, and that refers to Pfizer Juniper 26.
Right. That's right.
I don't have a size, it just says specimen.
So you have the Pfizer Juniper listed under shrubs.
Yes.
How big does the Pfizer Juniper grow?
Oh, maybe 8 feet tall and 12 feet wide or 15 feet wide. I mean, they grow. They're spreading. Junipers again of the same variety that existed on the property in the same location on the property. So if we want to go to, actually the clear place to look at this is to pull up the Wilkinson plan.
No, I'm asking you, Dan, were the cedars that were there, the decades old junipers, were they all 8 feet tall?
Yeah. I mean, there was a huge massing.
Okay. I just want to make sure, it's like you removed the contractor, not you personally, the contractor removed a lot of vegetation, and we just want to make sure the appropriate vegetation goes back.
Well, the same vegetation went back at the largest size available in the marketplace.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that clarification. I just didn't see it under your trees, so that's where I was getting confused.
Oh, it's under shrubs.
I didn't see
I'm
it
sorry.
listed under trees.
Yeah,
Okay.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that was my issue. I just missed it.
Again, happy to meet with you about this again.
No, I mean, I can show you. I can see the little tube. So maybe they had 2 limits of work going on, and they just, it happens on a site, and it's nice to see that the applicant is restoring that when it was obviously presented to the Concom originally that it was going to remain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We were.
That's my concern is, projects being presented to the commission as one thing, and then they come back and they're like, oh, we made these site conditions changes. So as long as the material and the mass went back, Dan, I'm fine with that. Thank you for that clarification.
You good?
Yep, I am good.
All right. Alyssa, do you have anything else? Okay. Commissioner comments. Betsy.
I have no questions. I do have a comment, and this story that Dan just told reminds me of what Maury warns people about. When you have a limit of work, a lot of people just clear everything within the limit of work, even if some of the things were meant to remain. So it's just another sort of warning to be vigilant on these projects and hope that the contractor follows the plan. That's all, Jamie.
Thank you. Courtney.
I'll follow up on Betsy. In the 18th century, miscreants were brought before in the public square and flogged publicly or put in stocks. I don't necessarily recommend such a course of action for this contractor, but I think he needs to be talked to and perhaps educated by this commission on what is appropriate in an area that's under our jurisdiction. I'm really disturbed by this, actually. No other comments.
Yeah. You know, nobody goes in and rips out 50 feet worth of 8-foot tall trees and just kind of on their own. Somebody had to tell them.
I'm gonna
Kevin. Kevin?
Yeah.
No further comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Maury.
All I'm going to say is when we want things saved and preserved inside limits of work, they need to be shown on the plan, and we have to condition that silt fence or construction fence be put around them. I mean, that it's when contractors see a limit of work, that's just what they think. Anything inside it is fair game. So maybe we have to be a little more clear on preservation of things that we have discussed in our findings to be saved. Thank you.
Like we do with protecting trees that are going to be preserved. Yeah. Steve?
I can't add anything to your comments, but remembering our original site visits, I can't quite reconstruct what this discussion's about with the site. I remember it being vegetated broadly in the valley. I just can't remember what it looked like.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, could I address the comments?
In a second. Hold on. You got another chance.
Okay, thank
Steve,
you.
are you all set?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Dan?
Yeah, I just want to say that I share, the commission's upset, about this. And what you described as being the problem was exactly the problem. Okay, so it was a mistake, to show plants to be preserved within the limit of work. I mean, even though it was clear on multiple plans, the site contractor used the one plan that wasn't clear about that. And so they went in on day one before any of us were even alerted that construction was to begin. And then I got a call, and the owner was horrified. I was horrified. And so I don't want this to be misconstrued as being, some kind of purposeful vista clearing incident. That's not it at all. This was a failure on the part of the site contractors to follow directions that were quite clear in many plans, but absent in one. And so, yes, there should be fencing around vegetation to be preserved within what otherwise would be the limit of work. In this case, the limit of work simply should have been on the landward side of that juniper massing, and for that I'm upset myself. But anyway, we did the best we could. We bought the biggest plants that we could find north of Maryland, and replaced it as best we could. And we added 48 bayberries, to augment them.
All right. Katrin, I think I saw your hand.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as a result, before we did, like Dan said, the applicant was so upset that before we were able to do any of our work of invasive removal, we met with him and went through the entire property so he understood what we were removing and what was staying, because he didn't want things like that. There's a lot of really beautiful trees, and he just wanted to understand that we weren't removing anything that was historic and should be left there. just thought that would be helpful. And they really weren't that tall. They had been kind of wind pruned, I think, over the years. So like Dan said, this really wasn't about a view. I think everyone wanted them to stay, including the applicant.
It also sounds like plans would change midstream, so that's not kosher either. Courtney?
Yeah, so I think, I'm sorry.
Is it not customary that we have a pre-construction conference with applicants, or is that not universal?
It's not necessarily universal, Courtney.
Yeah.
In this case, we probably should have, but we didn't. I mean, I think from a staff standpoint, I get what they're saying. The applicant was upset. It's not for a view. I get that. From a staff standpoint, I wish that, Dan, you would come to us and shown us your plan prior to replanting it. So I guess that's what, from our end, because we didn't have the ability to review that. You just brought us in a plan, say that you're proposed planting it, but it's actually already done. So that's where,
I understand.
next time, just reach out to us and connect us with what happened. Okay.
Yes, I understand.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Courtney, something new?
Yeah, well, in all seriousness, I don't advocate public flogging. I do think the contractor needs to be made aware that he's upset this Conservation Commission, and I would like to see a letter to him of reprimand.
All right, any other commissioner comments? All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Not for this project, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, Doug, do you have anything you'd like to add at this point?
Not at this point.
Equal
I know
opportunity,
we've
brother.
just clean up our plans a little bit.
Okay. All right. So
Can I make a motion, Jamie?
please.
Make a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Third second.
Hold on. Jen, do we need a continuance for the revised plan?
Alyssa, what do you think? Do you want a continuance for the revised plan?
I mean, we had already approved the mitigation planting the first time around. I think now it's just getting the numbers straight. All they did was reorganize them. It's not, they've added something and needed to add more. It's just shifting. So I think we can condition it.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So Betsy made a motion to close the hearing.
Harlow Hawk second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there are any other comments or questions? All right, hearing none, we'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Third eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Harlow Hawk's eye.
Steve?
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Katrine. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
All right, next up, request to extend an existing order of conditions. Charlie Nickerson, estate of Mary A. Nickerson, 89 T-Ticket Path, T-Ticket Mass, DEP number 25-4556, requesting a 1-year extension. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is requesting a 1-year continuance. They had some construction delays with their dock, so it's just finishing up the dock.
So moved.
Are you guys okay with the
Gladfelter.
1 year?
Yeah, we're fine with it.
All right, we have a motion and a second to grant a 1-year extension. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Third eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Harlow Hawk's eye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have granted a 1-year extension. Thank you. Next up, hearings under an enforcement order. Joseph Salvucci and Ellen Saslaw, 50 Rivers Edge Road, East Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted construction of a platform within conservation jurisdiction. Done?
Yes, I am attempting to promote Ellen. So Ellen is, there you go. Oh, Ellen, you declined to be promoted. Here, Miss Saslaw comes. She's one of the property owners. Alyssa, does she have a video?
Yes.
Okay. Miss Saslaw, if you could turn on your video and your microphone, you're muted.
Okay.
Here's one.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Should I begin?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Yes, this is an enforcement hearing for 50 Rivers Edge. A sitting platform, just a wooden platform, was constructed down towards the water of the property that we had received a complaint regarding. I had worked with the homeowners before, so I reached out via email to meet and to confirm that construction of the platform. It's currently located at towards the very end of the property with a little bit of a buffer in between. You've seen this property recently. A Vista prune was permitted, and they have a path that goes down to the water there. So that's where this is located. There wasn't any clearing done for the location of the platform. That area actually had a very large fallen tree in it, so there's no need for restoration here. But I did explain to the property owner upon my site visit that typically these platforms are viewed as structures moving closer to the resource areas than the present primary structure, which is their home, located completely out of the riverfront area. So when I explained this to the homeowners, I met with Mr. Salvucci on site. He was very understanding. He did ask to speak with the commission since you guys have the ability to use discretion on these sites. He did mention, though, that if the platform is asked to be removed, he could certainly comply with that. We might have to wait into the fall to do so. I believe there's a few appointments he had coming up and would like to do the work himself.
I can actually bring up a near maps photo. You can actually see it in the near map, and the board can have a visual if you don't mind me sharing my screen, Mr. Chairman.
Not at all.
Alyssa, this is the house, correct?
Yes.
So I guess this is a community dock. So this is kind of like an easement or a little pathway for the community, which prompted the complaint. You can see the platform right there. Is that it, Alyssa?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So right there. So this is all riverfront in this entire house. This is the 200-foot riverfront right about up here.
Yes. That's all I have at the moment, Mr. Chair. Ms. Saslaw did send in a statement that I have forwarded to the board. Hopefully everyone received that, and it is similar to what I've explained.
Thank you. What are you guys recommending?
Considering that it is moving closer to the resource areas, staff is recommending that the platform is removed.
And I'm sorry, you said it, but what's the restriction with waiting till the fall?
Mr. Salvucci had requested to do the work, and he's more than happy to remove it if the commission sees fit. He's hoping for a fall deadline to remove it. I believe he'd like to do the work himself.
Okay. All right. So, commenting. Anybody have anything they'd like to offer?
Not really.
All right. Courtney?
Yeah, just, I presume that when it's removed, the area would be replanted with native vegetation.
So Alyssa just said it didn't have to be replanted because a tree had fell down there.
Nothing was cleared is
There's a,
my point.
there is a footprint.
To a degree.
Kind of like an open woodland area, Courtney.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not like all shrubs. So as Alyssa said, there was nothing clear. It doesn't appear to be anything that was cleared to put the platform. There was a large tree that had fallen, and they just cleared that debris away, and then it thought that that would be a nice place for the platform.
no problem.
I don't think it's necessary to have them go in and start digging around on that bank to
Okay,
plant nursery stock in a native forested area.
no problem. I defer to staff.
Ms. Sasalaw, you have your hand raised?
Yes, that platform is not attached to the ground. It's just a 10-foot platform, which is in place there. It's pegged a little bit, so it, it'll be stable, but the weight of it keeps it stable. So it was just laid on top of the existing woods floor the way it is. We did nothing to the woods. And not realizing that that was not allowed. It's kind of like putting the base for a blanket or a tent or something so we could sit down there without tipping over or disturbing the ground, because it stabilizes where you can sit. And I guess my question is, it doesn't seem to me to have interfered with anything on the lot. It's very small in relation to the lot. I wonder what harm it is to leave it there.
Betsy?
So we understand your concern, but one of the immediate things that comes to me, if you have a really heavy rain in that area and it pours off, I mean, that's an impervious surface, and it pours off that, it could cause erosion near and around that area. And it's not allowed. You're not allowed to put impervious surfaces, and this would be in the 100-foot riverfront where it is.
Well, it's actually not butted up. There's spaces between the boards, so the water goes through it and doesn't remain on it. Just so you know. I mean, we'll take it out.
But I mean, it's not, we understand and we're sympathetic, but that's not allowed. And there are many areas where it would be much more obvious that the damage that it would cause. So, I mean, it's just, not allowed. I mean.
All right,
Okay.
any other comments or questions?
I reviewed the commission, the wetlands definitions of alter. I reading through that, I had no way of knowing that it wasn't allowed. It's hard to know where to look when you're looking at these things. I didn't know what questions to ask or what to do. It was unintentional on our part.
We all understand that, but in the future, if you want to do something, the first thing you should do is come in and make an appointment and talk with Jen or Alyssa in the office.
Which we did in clearing and doing the vista pruning. We did that.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, Jen, what are we looking for? A motion to issue an enforcement order?
Yeah, a motion to issue an enforcement order for the removal of the platform. This one's very quick and easy.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right. So as I understand it, we have a motion and a second to issue an enforcement order for the removal of said platform. Is that clear?
Correct.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing else, we're going to vote on this. All right, Betsy?
Only question is, do we put a date on that? That's all.
We will do like October 31st. That's
Okay.
mid into the
So it doesn't
fall
need
and
to
would
be
give the
part of
property owner time to remove it like he had requested.
Okay.
All right.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an enforcement order for the removal of the platform. Thank you, Ms. Seslaw.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Philip and Gabrielle Chishportik, 189 Surf Drive, Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted construction of a shed and rinse station within conservation jurisdiction. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted the property owner up, Mr. Portage.
Unmute.
There you go. You're unmuted. Do you have a camera, sir? There we
There
go.
he is.
Thank you.
You can see me and you can hear me?
Yes, we can,
Okay.
sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All
Will
right.
I start speaking or? Okay.
Oh,
Mhm.
hold
I'll
on, Ms.
start and give it
Bergeron.
just an explanation. Yes,
Okay.
so this is an enforcement hearing for 189 Surf Drive. During a site visit that staff had to a nearby property in the fall of last year, we noticed that under Mr. Shishportage's home, there is a shed. Later discovered there is also a rinse station. Given that the home is up on pilings, it just looked a little off. So in review of previous permitting for the home, which was constructed on pilings was approved in 2014, those two structures were not previously approved and were not present at the site at the time of compliance in 2018. I had reached out to the homeowner. We met in May. Emma came as well. In conversation with Mr. Shishportage, we started to explain that this is a velocity zone. There is a certain amount of enclosed space that can be approved under these structures. The home actually has 2 garage stalls on it, so there is potential to take the items that are in the shed and still store them at the ground level on the property. We started talking about the velocity zone and what that means. Mr. Shishportage asked, when we mentioned that these items would need to be removed per the regulations, he asked if he could speak with the commission to hear what you guys had to say about the matter. And here we are. Jen, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, nothing. That was great. Thank you.
That's all, Mr. Chair.
Before I start speaking, would it help for me to share a picture of the location? Or I know, Alisa, that is included in your staff report. I'm just be glad to share it.
Yeah, if the board would like to see it.
Sure.
Okay, I'm assuming you can see that picture.
Oh,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be very succinct. I mean, you guys have a pretty busy evening here. First is it's not like I built that out of the blue. I actually called the building department, I think it's called. They told me that because it's a very small structure, it's like 6 by 6, so it's like 36 square feet. I didn't need a permit, and I was not aware that I was required to get approval or to present that to this body, to the conservation, basically. The history behind that is I used to leave my lawnmower and a couple of garden tools outside. I thought it will be better for everybody, especially the neighbors and the cosmetic of my house, to build a small, was custom built to fit between, you know, the back of the house, which is a concrete structure for the elevator, and the concrete base that holds a little deck above for the air conditioning. You know, again, it's being used mainly to put my lawnmower and shovels, rakes, this type of thing. I know it's against the general FEMA rule. I thought there was the ability for the Conservation Committee to make an exception or be lenient because it's so small. It's under, I don't know, 200 square feet, 100 square feet. And so I thought I would at least present my situation myself, asking for leniency on keeping that small structure. It's really custom built and adjacent. It's more almost like a lean-to structure. And if I have to remove it, it's going to cost me additional money, and it's going to damage the what do you call it, the siding of the house. So it's not a minus thing from a cost standpoint. So again, you know, I asked for flexibility, and I don't know if you have the ability to do that or not, but I thought at least I will take a few minutes to explain my my request.
Excellent.
Another thing that you should know is, and again, I'm not trying to use that as leverage, so to speak, but a lot of houses along Surf Drive on the Bywater side there, they have shed. I mean, some properties have multiple shed, and those are real shed as opposed to this is just a small. It's called a shed, but it's basically very, very small. So I'm done.
Thank you, sir. If you would stop sharing. I'm impressed with the sharing, well, what to say. All right, so again, you guys are recommending removal.
To keep it consistent with your other past rulings. I mean, we can work with Mr. Portish on the outdoor shower to do some sort of sailcloth enclosure, but this board has required not that hard paneling even around the outdoor showers in a V zone. So we've been kind of looking for alternative materials that they can use in the outdoor showers that have kind of a nautical feel to it and will offer that privacy.
And he
Yeah,
already
by the
has
way,
200, excuse me, he already has his 200 square feet with the garage, correct?
There is an enclosed garage. You have 2 enclosed bays in your garage, correct, sir?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Correct.
Alyssa?
Yes, I quickly reviewed the architecturals for the house development in 2014. There's the 2-car garage, an elevator, and an entryway that were proposed to be enclosed. The rest was proposed to just remain open.
So to my point, he's got his 200 square feet. Yeah, okay. So I mean, he's not shorted what anybody else would have been allowed. Okay, questions or comments from commission? Nothing? All right. So I think I'm looking for a motion and a second to issue an enforcement order for the removal of the shed and the rent
So
station.
move Gladfelter.
Bird second.
All right. Any other comments or questions? All right, we're voting. Again, the motion and the second on the table is to issue an enforcement order for the removal. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury? Maury?
You're muted,
You're on
Maury.
mute.
Harlow Hawks eye, sorry.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an enforcement order. Thank you, sir. Next up, continued. All right, I'm going to stall for a second. All right. Next up, continued request for hearing under an enforcement order. Ooh, here's a familiar project. Susan and Gerald Lieber, 0 Lakeshore Drive North, map and parcel number 22-04-027-004A, Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of vegetation and construction of retaining walls within conservation jurisdiction. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if anybody is here for this project and would like to address the board, can you please raise your hand? Maria, okay.
Alyssa, I don't know what we have for quorum because this got split up after the fact.
Yep, I traced it back. Kevin is not on this quorum, and Melissa, since she's not here.
Lucky
So,
you, Kevin.
I mean, unfortunately, Mr. Chairman, we do not have a revised plan at this time. We did reach out to Cape and Islands Engineering, and we were told that they had been reaching out to their client and had not heard from them in several weeks. We're talking 3 or 4 weeks to get this revised plan to you. I then sent a fairly strong worded letter letting Cape and Islands know that if we did not have a revised some sort of plan in our office by close of business that day, because it was the last day before this hearing, it was last Wednesday, that the staff would have no choice but to recommend that we issue an enforcement order, that all of the elements, the boulders, the platforms, the statues, and all of the other improvements that the Liebers did on the property be removed by a date certain. In this case, I would say by August 31st, and that a planting plan be submitted to the commission by August 31st, and that the planting be done no later than mid-October.
So the other 2 projects, they were pretty, I don't know what the word to use, active about resolving it, no?
Yes.
And any idea why this one is
No.
fallen to the wayside? No? Okay.
It's the largest.
It's the worst one.
And the worst one of the 3.
Okay, so, all right. So since they haven't done what you asked them to do, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are recommending that we issue an enforcement order with the hard date of removal and planting.
Correct.
Okay, and I'm assuming Maria's here to show us that she has a plan, a planting plan. Is that correct? Yes,
Hello,
no?
everyone. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Maria Hickey and Associates Landscapes. I was hired on Saturday to work on this project. So here I am. I met with Alyssa on Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock. You have my full support and involvement, and I look forward to performing the necessary steps to remove the physical structures and restore the native plantings that in some cases were removed to install the structures. And I hadn't been brought into this case formally yet. I am working on the other 2 orders, and the work on those will be started imminently. And I look forward to helping resolve this one as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Okay. So,
So I'll make a motion that we issue an enforcement order just as Jen described.
Bird second.
all right, any questions or comments from the commissioners? All right, so Jen, you're gonna have to give, I'm sorry, I think I wrote it down, but you want the removal by August 31st, and you want to see a planting plan by August 31st. Is that accurate?
That is
Did I write
accurate.
that down correctly?
Correct.
All right. Maria, yes or no? Are you going to be able to provide a plan by 8/31?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions or comments from the commission?
And then Jamie, just to add the planting by mid-October.
Okay. Okay.
Will you be able to plant the site by mid-October, Maria?
Yes.
Okay.
Maria's going to save the day.
I'm trying.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an enforcement order as discussed. So I won't go into more detail. So there's no other questions or comments. That's what we're voting on. Everybody clear?
Yes.
Perfect. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Hawk's eye.
Steve.
Pat, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an enforcement order. Thank you. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Good night,
Thank
Maria.
you.
Aye.
All right, next up, vote orders of conditions. First up, Joseph W. Hill, trustee, the Hill Family Trust, 22 Riverway, North Falmouth, Mass. Jen?
This is the one down in North Falmouth. They're gonna remove the big patio that was rebuilt without any proper permits. They're gonna replace that area with sand and some beach grass, and then they're doing work on the garage. I think that sums it up, correct, Alyssa?
Yes, we also received a revised plan showing the proper mitigation for the, I think they were AC units.
Yeah, and the 6 shrubs that Tom put there for the AC units, correct? Okay.
Kind of simple. Anything anybody wants to see in there? All
No, I
right,
don't think so.
What's the quorum?
not Melissa.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'll make a motion to to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. No other questions or comments? We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Hawk's eye.
Steve.
Pat, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Barry T. Hannon, trustee, Braden Realty Trust, 71 Water Street, Woods Hole, Mass. Jen?
This is that deck around the restaurant in Woods Hole.
Yeah.
Literally the biggest concern the town has is them working on that revetment because of the really delicate condition that sewer main is in. So they did say that they will coordinate with the town. And if the town is delayed in any way, we will have a pre-construction meeting with the wastewater superintendent down in Woods Hole to review their methodology and to assure that that sewer main is protected. And that's if the town can't get to the repair before they want to, construct the deck. Obviously, it's in the height of the season. They're not going to be going in there right now and doing it. But I do know they want to get started in the fall, which falls right around the town's timeframe.
So can we make that an explicit condition?
Correct.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
all right. All right, anything else?
And I've also just to double protect it, we have put the building department on notice, so they won't issue a building permit until we're satisfied.
Okay. Maura, you had something?
I just want to make sure that the public access is maintained.
Yep.
I'm down, there's a lot of places there where things are locked and.
Like I said, we can put a call into our friends at DEP. Waterways. Come take a lovely walk in Woods Hole.
See if you can walk by the waterfront.
All right. What are you thinking?
I'll make a motion. I mean, I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird second.
All right. Any other questions or comments? No. All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Steve.
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Margaret R. Coppola, trustee, Coppola Revocable Trust, 286 Dippewisset Road, Falmouth, Mass. And the quorum excludes Betsy and Maury and Melissa, but she's not here anyway.
Yeah, this is they're moving the wall, they're regrading the back, they're planting that large meadow. And they need to remove the pipe underneath the staircase. Because Alyssa channeled her inner Tom Corvo and found this random pipe under a staircase.
You need one in every group.
All right. Anything else anybody wants to see in there? Alyssa.
Sorry, this is the Raul project with
Oh
the,
shoot, I thought this was the big
Yeah.
one.
That's okay. This is
Okay,
Raul when
so-
he tried to do some interesting mitigation math.
Oh, completely. I think we already approved the meta one. For some reason, I just got my projects all mixed up. Sorry about that. This is the little additions on the little house and off of Sipawis, and then doing the mitigation. You're right. This is Raul's funky mitigation one. But he came up with the correct amount of mitigation in the end, so approve.
Okay.
I had that project
All
stuck.
right. Do over. All right. Anything anybody wants to see in there? Anything different, additional? All right. So I would entertain a motion in a second to issue an order of conditions.
Bird, so move.
Patton, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. All right. Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. And before we go for the last motion, a reminder, there is no meeting next week. So happy July 26th, everyone.
I'll make a motion.
All right. What was that motion?
I made a motion to adjourn. No second?
Second,
Second.
O'Brien.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye.
O'Brien, aye.
Carla Hawk's eye.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have adjourned. Thank you, everyone.